Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing a review of a horror comedy from Australia, English language, released in the year 2012, directed by Cameron and Colin Cairns, and this movie is called 100 Bloody Acres. And the story to 100 Bloody Acres is as follows. 100 Bloody Acres is a creepy yet hilarious story of brothers Reg and Lindsay Morgan's struggling organic blood and bone fertilizer business. The use of dead car crash victims in the mix has been a huge boon to business, but it's been months since their last find and an important new customer is waiting on a delivery. When Reg, the younger partner in the business, comes across two guys and a girl stranded on a remote country road, he sees a radical solution to their supply problems and a way of finally gaining the respect of his bossy big brother Lindsay. But things don't quite go to plan, and when Reg starts to fall for Sophie. So basically what the movie is, it's set in the countryside of Australia. You've got the brothers Morgan, you've got Reg and Lindsay Morgan, who run a family-owned fertilizer business, and basically their secret ingredients that's been a boon to their business are dead car crash victims. So they go along the remote countryside roads, they collect the dead, car crash victims. They also collect roadkill, and they put it into the mix, and that's what's made them so popular. But it's been a few months since their last find. So Reg, the lesser of the partnership, he's the younger brother. He really looks up to Lindsay, his older brother. Lindsay's a much more psychotic individual, and Reg really wants to impress Lindsay. And he sees an opportunity when he comes across two guys and a girl who are stranded on a remote road, and they're hitchhiking. So Reg picks them up with the intention of basically getting back what's made them so good in the first place, and the secret recipe being the two guys and the girl unknowingly, and what happens from that point on, and whether or not Reg can achieve the goal of satisfying Lindsay. And things are going to get complicated because he starts to fall for the girl of the group. So there's a lot going on. It's very complicated, and it's basically who comes out of this in one piece. It's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on this movie. I had massive expectations coming into it. Now, when Australian horror comedies get it right, they really nail it. Now, I don't think it really appeals so much to overseas audiences, but for me, being Australian, if you know the Australian sense of humour, I just think they do it really, really well. And it's kind of basic humour, so it's not too hard to achieve, but you've really got to be in the right zone, if you know what I mean. Like Undead, which is an Australian comedy, was fantastic. And it was just down to the simple fact that it's how the characters portray their lines. And, the comedy is very slapstick, it's very juvenile, and it's toilet humour, but it's done well. And so I was expecting nothing less in this film, because, the directors are also very well-known writers, and they've been writing for a few other Australian comedy, television. And I think they do a very, very good job. And so I didn't really know too much about these directors, but I know they've been associated with these programs that I found are really funny. So that is another plus. And I thought, yes, okay, this is definitely going to be a very funny film. It also had Angus Sampson, who is a very good actor, and he's also a very good character actor. He's very funny himself. And he's been in numerous shows. He's also been in numerous other Australian films. So all of that was a recipe for a great success. And so after watching the film, I can say, though, this movie does not come near the hype that I had for it. Now, unfortunately, this movie is just not that funny, and it's just not that creepy. Yes, it does have some good gore effects, but that's pretty much all you're going to remember it for. I mean, as far as Australian horror comedies are concerned, I was surprised at how humorless this film was, and there were some aspects in the movie where they were trying too hard for a laugh. And I just felt to myself, this was a juvenile attempt at comedy. It felt like these two directors don't belong in the horror comedy genre, and that because one didn't nail the horror, and that, number two, they didn't nail the comedy. And having Angus Sampson there, I just felt to myself that was a missed opportunity, because this guy can be funny, but in this movie he just wasn't that funny. And they were resorting to the most basic thing, basically swear words, the F word and all that, just throwing it in there for a desperate attempt at getting the audience to laugh. And what you do is you kind of half smile, but you think to yourself, well, you're trying too hard for a laugh. And yes, movies like Undead had a lot of swearing in it, but the actual dialogue was funny. Whereas in this movie, the dialogue isn't funny. All they do is say a few things and then swear. And you just feel to yourself, well, this is not coming off as well as it should. And so I thought the characters were very bland. Reg, who's supposed to be the likable of the two brothers, he was the good guy, and Lindsay was the evil guy. I just thought both of them didn't have very good chemistry. They didn't work off each other very well. I thought the people who were kidnapped, I didn't care for their situation. Now, yes, it is a horror comedy, and if it's done right, you don't have to care about the characters, but because this didn't have much humour in it, or for me, it didn't appeal to me, it at least have, you know, some sort of scary aspect to it, but it didn't have that. And so I didn't care about the good guy's plight, and I really didn't care about this family-owned business because it just wasn't that interesting. It didn't go in detail, and it just felt like a very surface-based film, as in what you see is what you get, and there's nothing underneath, and it just felt like a very lackluster experience. Now, at the end of the film, it was a surprising way it finished. I mean, it is very bloody, but there is only really one good gore scene, and the rest is just run-of-the-mill sort of stuff. So, if you're a gorehound, I wouldn't even say check this film out because, you know, there's just not enough to satisfy a gorehound. Although it is done well, it just felt like this film had a budget only for one gore scene, pretty much. And so, you know, if you're going to have a horror comedy, I keep saying that a lot of horror comedies, they either have too much horror, not enough comedy, or too much comedy, not enough horror. Whereas in this movie, it feels like both are lacking. And that is a massive letdown for me because I had massive expectations coming into this one. It is very well shot. The acting is not too bad, but it's just not enough to really care about. And in the end, what you get is a film that you'd probably forget, you know, 40 minutes after you finish watching it. So it is definitely not one of the more, memorable Australian horror comedies, and that comes as a big disappointment because I really wanted to love the film, but unfortunately I just couldn't. So overall, for 100 Bloody Acres, I'm only going to give it 2 stars, and it's not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.